What's going on, guys? Good evening. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Welcome back to another edition of Trafford Talk. And I say good evening. I should say good afternoon to James stateside. Yes.
Yes. It's just noon now. Noon 02.
Yeah, well, there you go. Exactly. High noon to James and everyone watching. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe. It's our favorite time, which is, of course, international break. So there's so much to talk about. There is stuff that usually probably wouldn't actually get that much discussion, but it's international break. So that's what we do. We are going to be talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the first ever repeat guest on Stick to Football. He's come back to dish out some more interesting tidbits about his time at United, certain players, his thoughts, maybe things that have happened since he has left, formations. We're also going to be talking about, me and my Flex talk about this, spoke about this in the morning, but also we're going to be talking about fixtures and how Manchester United possibly have the easiest fixtures, the next 5 fixtures in the Premier League. And
true.
What that possibly means and everything else in between. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, as Jedi Pyro says right there. Big up Owen and evil Owen. I don't know what makes James evil, but this thing's
why is it evil? Is it because I have like slightly darker hair or something?
Maybe.
You've got a little red. Mine's a little darker. It's like,
yeah. JB says Owen and anti Owen, which I don't know. I don't know. Again,
I would say also tend to have similar personalities of people on the show. I actually think we're quite similar.
Yeah. Maybe it's actually, I'm not talking to another person. I'm just talking to future me. You know what I mean? Me, I've moved to America. You know,
how much in the future? How old do you think?
Just a couple. You know, what I mean? It's fine. I tell you what, I'm surprised by is how future me has managed to keep my hair, considering it's rapidly on the way out. So maybe that's
not this hair.
Exactly.
It all turns around.
Yeah. Exactly.
You only wear hats when you forget to shower, not because you're losing your hair. Don't worry.
Well, yeah. No, I can't wear the hats. I can't be doing it. But yes, let's talk. Let's talk about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the former Manchester United manager. Was, as I mentioned, a repeat guest, the first ever repeat guest on Stick to Football, which is Gary Neville's podcast thing on the Overlap. And he had some interesting things to say about a lot of different players and his time at United. So we're going to sort of dissect it. First of which, he spoke about Scott McTominay. Of course, McTominay left United, went on to win Serie A, get Serie A MVP. And of course, he was someone that featured a lot during Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's tenure. We remember McFred and we remember McTominay even scoring goals under Ole. And here's what he had to say about his departure. He said, "I was almost shocked. I think you need a core of local players who know and understand the club. He's shown in Italy what a super player he is. He has an excellent personality that you want within the club." He also says, in my squad, Scotty probably wasn't allowed to play in his best position enough. Is that because of Bruno? Maybe, yeah, Bruno, because maybe the lack of physicality we had in midfield and the legs we had in midfield. And you saw a couple of games against Leeds where we said, Scott, this is a man-to-man game, and you're going to be running off your man, third man run, up, back, through, and he'll score 2, 3. I can't remember how many goals he scored against Leeds, against the Bielsa team. I can't remember the games, and that's probably the reason, that we think of him as, because he's got a different role at Napoli. I'll tell you what, that last bit.
I like the Yaz, by the way, because it really sounds like Solskjaer when you read out the Yaz. I can hear it in my head.
I was thinking as I was reading it out, I was going, we have gone very literal here, haven't we? Oh my goodness, what's this? Just caught? Like, oh my God. But it goes back to something that was spoken about last season, maybe on the backdrop of having a very poor season and not scoring many goals, and maybe who he replaced him with. But a couple of years removed, would you say selling Scott McTominay was a mistake per se, considering what he funded the Ugarte deal? Maybe was that a mistake?
I don't think it was, but I also do tend to agree with what Solskjaer said about McTominay's best role, right? And when he's talking about how when he gets free and he can make that extra run. And the thing is about United, and I think the thing is about the Premier League, that kind of role, I don't know what the name of it might be. I don't think that exists in England. It's like you don't quite get that much of it. Like you look at Bruno, you look at Kevin De Bruyne, you look at even the classic 10s. There's not as many of them as there used to be. But the ones that there were, did a lot more than just make that extra man run. That extra third man run into the box, late arriving, striking the ball cleanly. We don't have they were they're playmakers all around the pitch, which McTominay was not in the same way. He was really good at it, but in Italy they play a lot of the two up top. They play a lot of that. We don't do that in England. It's just it doesn't really fit the way that we play here. The number 8 does it. Will crash the box, score some late goals, but they've got to be really good at a lot of other stuff as well. So I think it's just stylistically, his greatest strengths play really well into the Italian league and into what they were doing there. I don't think you can get away with that. I mean, how we reinvest money, this, that, there's positives and negatives to all sides of that, but I think it was still probably the right thing. I mean, we kept seeing that in that season under Ten Hag, that he would come in and score late goals. He'd start the next game and do nothing for 80 minutes. And then maybe he'd score a late goal, but it was kind of just a constant trade-off and back and forth. And it was, I think in all respects, it's cool. He left, went on, had a good time in Italy and is doing well. And sometimes that's just the way that it goes, and it's good for everybody.
Yeah, I think part of the thing with him is people didn't expect him to obviously do as well as he has done.
Sure.
So naturally you then do start looking at yourselves going, was there something that we were doing wrong? I think you make a good point about the Ten Hag time where he was coming on as this super sub scoring goals, and then he would start the next game and he wouldn't really do that much, but he would be doing a different role when he started, because he would come on, let's say, as like you said, a second striker, or even if he was in midfield, but with the idea of it's 10, 15 minutes to go, get in the box, see what happens. But when you start, you don't start a game like that, do you? You know what I mean? You don't start a game going, right, get in the box, pump it straight in there. We're desperate.
We couldn't get to the box, and so it was like end of game's great, but most of the game we couldn't get there. It wouldn't help us.
Exactly. So that didn't really work out for him. And I do think it's a good point you make about if he had broken through, let's say 10 years earlier, 15 years earlier, in the sort of early 2000s, late 90s Barclays Premier League in like a 4-4-2, where your midfielder role was a bit more of like a nuanced one, but like you're talking midfielder, just get forward. You know what I mean? We're going to be playing long anyway. Get forward, get second balls and knockdowns. Go like that. It's sort of, he's like a more refined Marouane Fellaini. You know what I mean? Second balls, knockdowns, get in the box. That kind of thing. It is a difficult one. I always say this with transfers. It wouldn't be highlighted as much as a mistake to sell him had whoever we brought in to replace him done more of an impact, equally as well, or made an impact. I'm not just mean in terms of like scoring goals, but in just terms of whatever we brought them in to do. If they had been transformative, as he seemingly has been for Napoli, we wouldn't be talking about it at all. But we signed Ugarte, and that's difficult because they're not really comparable players apart from they play in midfield. And now the argument's actually McTominay, does he even play in midfield, but they're totally different players, aren't they? So it's difficult.
And you could put it in both ways. 30 million in profit technically is a lot more than Ugarte alone in transfer. With how FFP and PSR works, technically you could have taken it and said, well, it got us Ugarte and Matthijs de Ligt or something like that. Or, it funded 2 transfers. And then you might think of it saying, in that case, it made us better as a squad, I think, in general. But it is difficult.
Maybe help fund Dorgu in January as well. Maybe
it got us 3 players. You never know.
3 players. The problem is, again, it funded Dorgu. People are going to go, okay.
Yeah, but he's shit right now.
He's not playing well at the moment. So, it's one of those ones. I think we do this a lot. I think in general, just with players that we move on, and then again we don't replace them very well with. So, like when with Onana, for instance, De Gea going is technically the right call, in terms of wages, tenure at the club, blah blah blah. But you replace him with worse than. You're going to go, well, we shouldn't have let this guy go. And I suppose it's the same with Scott McTominay. The big question is, when is this contract? I don't know. But let's say there's a scenario where he could come back to Manchester United in the next couple of years, because he's always older than I think he is as well. He's 28. So he's in his prime at the moment. Would you take him back?
It depends, right? I don't have anything against McTominay, and I think you could deploy him now almost in one of those tens roles, but I still look at that and I look at how difficult those positions are when you look at like the way that Mbumo plays. Where would you play him still? You know, where would you put him? You know, he could be, maybe we'll be at a state at some point in time in a few years around the same time where the squad is so settled that we actually can have like these just random utility players and they can just like, you know, Sir Alex had plenty of them as well. You could just throw them on to do a job and it doesn't upset the whole team's balance by changing one thing in there. I think maybe once we're at that state, I would happily take useful goal scorers like that into the team, but only if and when we were at that state. Like I wouldn't want to see him in the midfield right now because I think it'd be the same problem we had before.
Yeah, I think you would still be going, right, what position does he play in Ruben's team? And it's probably, it's away from the midfield because he's not very good at passing the ball, McTominay. It's the same issue as quite a few of our midfielders actually, or just actually passing the ball, not great. Closer to goal, okay. Can he be an inside 10 with what they're sort of being asked to do? Probably. His best position in this Ruben team probably be as a striker, in all honesty.
Yeah, as the nine, honestly,
How good is your hold-up play? Yeah, win some headers in the box. You know, it might be something like that. So I don't know. I'm like you. I'm just kind of never go back. Just once it's done, move on. You know, it's one of those. But in talking about these players that he worked with at Manchester United, I had some other things to say as well. And I was interested to see what you said about this because I wasn't sure if I've spoken to you about a couple of these players. First of which was Anthony Martial. It generated this response from Roy Keane. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said, Anthony Martial, very talented, unplayable on his good days. Roy Keane's reaction there. And I don't know if I've ever spoken to you about Martial. What was?
I think he was kind of gone before we started doing these.
Yeah,
I'm a bit of Roy Keane in there because it's the last few words that matter on his good days, which were when. You know, it was like really, really, really occasionally. You know, he had lockdown NHS Martial 3 months after lockdown. That's it. That's the only consistent time he has had his entire time at United. Besides that, it was in and out of the team with injuries. You know, even when Ten Hag came in, he was supposed to be the guy that preseason gets injured the day before, and we never see him. Never see him again.
I never got that with Ten Hag. I remember that first like preseason, and it was like we saw his first friendly game. It was like Martial up front. I remember thinking, that's a bold choice, considering like the season before
he was on loan get a striker.
He was on loan at Sevilla, and it went really badly for him at Sevilla as well. Like they were not happy with him there. I remember thinking like, that's a big call. And then actually in preseason, he was really good. He was really good in preseason. It was like, right. It was like,
so was Sancho. So it was like the whole team.
It's like, I guess this is going to work, isn't it? And then, like you say, press conference before the first game against Brighton. Oh, yeah, he's done his hamstring or he's felt something in his hamstring. Just don't see him again. And what was maddening about that season in particular was, but every time he did play, he scored. Every time he played, he scored. Really, and he had one of the best minutes per goal record in the Prem. Of like, he was on the pitch for like 20 minutes, he would score. That would be it. And then I remember the stat towards the end of like he hadn't completed 90 minutes in like 2 years or something ridiculous. So I was with you. I'm like, there's no doubt in the talent and what could have been.
Of course.
At the time, I remember it's one of the last times I can kind of recall of when we signed Anthony Martial. I remember it was like one of the deadline day signings in like 2015 or something like that. And everyone was like, we have no idea where this has come from, who he is.
Yeah, it was crazy.
What is this? Signing, and it was like, and there was like, there's a Ballon d'Or clause in there. Everyone was like, well, he must be really good then. Like, it's really good. And he obviously scores in his debut against Liverpool. Oh my God, we've got this Henry regen at Old Trafford. This is going to be amazing. And then I think, what was it, first 2 or 3 games he scored as well? I think he scored against Southampton. Oh my God, this is going to be amazing. And then, like you say, you get the on his day, which is one of my least favorite things ever. Because like you said, if you have to say that about anyone on his day, it's already a problem. They used to say it about Jack Wilshere on his day. If he's fit, and you go, you've already said the problem.
That's the line. It's over.
It's over. The irony is we've still got a couple of on their day players in our team. And
because we've been an on their day team for like 10 years, and so it's a reflection of this. Like, on their day, United can beat anybody. Well, I'm kind of tired of that. And so that's a reflection of the players that bit on the pitch. Too many on their day players, on their day team. And we need an everyday team, or a 90% of the time team. And
aren't we
that's how
still
I
that
feel.
though? Aren't we still on our day team in the sense
We
of
have been, but I think it's getting better. I think it's getting better recently, but we have been for quite a long time. It hasn't changed. I mean, we look at guys like Ahmad and Mbumo. I don't feel like they're on their day players anymore. Like, I think they're really
Mbumo's much more
consistent.
consistent. Yeah.
Yeah. And Ahmad has off days, but they're mostly on. We mostly know what we're getting from him. De Ligt's been really consistent. Lamans is incredibly boringly consistent. That's a good sign out the back.
Yeah.
Cunha maybe is a little bit, just hasn't got going yet. We'll see if he's an on his day player or not. And, but it's getting better. It's getting better. We're getting more consistency than we've ever had, I think.
That is true. He also spoke about some other ex-players technically under contract. Marcus Rashford, who does start for England tonight, I think. He says, I've not spoken to Marcus since I left. Been texting a little bit, but the circumstances, ... I don't know what's happened in Marcus's life, but you can see he's enjoying himself now in Barca. Probably it looked like he didn't enjoy himself here at Manchester United at the end. And I thought it was interesting he said that about Rashford, because I don't know if they had the best relationship towards the end with Solskjaer. I mean, I remember the sort of frustration about, he had the back injury, didn't he, Rashford? And then Solskjaer kept playing him lots of with a load of games.
Foot injury and kept playing.
And the foot injury and all that. And I remember even Solskjaer's last season, Rashford was late back because he had surgery, I think, on his ankle or something like that.
Yep, floating bone, yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. And also he spoke about Jadon Sancho, about what the plan was there and how, I guess, spectacularly this has not worked. But he said, we wanted to take the next step, not away from what we had, but add something different in the final third. We wanted players who could break teams down, and Jadon, with his skill, link-up play, and little passes around the box, gave us that. He was unlucky, though. Before he joined, he went on holiday, and as you do, he ended up getting an ear infection. He was in hospital. I don't know why United just hospital, and really struggled for his first 10 days or so before he could even start training with us. I like he says that hasn't really come up before, when it definitely has. Like the ear infection, I think, is quite commonly known. Yeah. He says, I never really got to play with him properly because by the time he was finding form again, I was already on my way out. And it made me think, actually, with the Jadon Sancho signing in general, because he's at Aston Villa now and occasionally gets on the pitch or whatever. He's going to leave on a free. We just went, you can go out on loan just so we don't have to pay as much wages this season on you. I was thinking in terms of modern history, and look, we've had some stinker of signings, right? Most of our signings are stinkers. How up there is the Jadon Sancho signing when you consider time spent pursuing him, 2 years, the fee in the end, the wages, the return, the absences? That's got to be right up there, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that it's one of the worst signings ever. Like, there's been worse ones in like Coutinho where there's more money on the line that have not worked out at all. But in terms of like, also one of the most wasted potential, I guess you could say, signings ever, because when you look at his numbers at Dortmund, it's not like crazy. Like, he wasn't like some maybe up and comer we paid a ton of money for, or like Anthony or something like that. He was a superstar with doing superstar numbers. Unbelievable numbers in the Champions League, everywhere. 40 goal assist season, the types of stats that nobody but Messi had been putting up in those leagues at his age. Like, just unbelievable. And then he can't even get on the pitch at Aston Villa here 4 years later. He's not old. He's like 25 years old, 24 years old. Like, nuts. It's nuts. So yeah, it's in that respect, I look at it like, no, it's not the worst transfer in history. For us, it probably is the worst one. But just in the overall circumstances, and I'm not saying it's even United's fault in that respect entirely, but it's one of the biggest wasted potentials ever. What a strange thing. I feel like we never saw Jadon Sancho play. Like, I don't even remember him playing.
It's crazy. I'm just trying to think of, like, big moments that you had in the United shirt. I think
The Liverpool goal, Ten Hag's
Liverpool
first
goal.
season.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe that. Can't really remember any other like big moments. I remember he scored one in the Champions League against Villarreal under Carrick. Was about it. You know, it's just. Did he score against Chelsea as well in that period of time? I think he did.
It might have. He had a couple really small runs of form, but then he was injured. He was sick. He was in and out of the team constantly as well.
Yeah, and I just think you also have to look at, like I said, the time spent pursuing, the amount of money spent, and how, like you said, we just got nothing out of him, and also. I think also you look at, because Z in the chat says, no, stop it, James. He's not the worst. That's harsh. He says Anthony was worse. But I would say with the Anthony one, at least at some point, Man United were able to sell the player and get something back. With Sancho, they've not been able to.
And he wasn't on those wages either, because he's on like
trying to do that for 3 years, trying to sell him.
I know.
They can't do it.
And it's like 300,000 a week. So it's cost us 45 million to pay Sancho the last 3 years in wages alone. Like it just makes the overall cost of the deal so bad for what we got back. It's virtually nothing.
Literally zero return on investment.
No.
You know, and like you said, in terms of his contract, he's probably been playing for other teams or not playing more than he has been playing for Manchester United, right?
Yeah.
Because his second or third season's the one he falls out at Ten Hag. Then he's got Dortmund, Chelsea, Villa. There's a sabbatical in there in Ten Hag's first season as well. There's a long time there where he's not playing for Manchester United, and Man United it's just a resource drain, isn't it? That's all it can be looked at as, just a complete resource drain. The weirdest turn with it is when it looked like for half a second he was maybe going to come back in last season's preseason, when suddenly I remember, because I was at a wedding and I saw the thing pop on my phone that Jadon Sancho's back in training. I remember being like, what? What he's back in training? Yeah. And then I did. Clearly, that was, I think, an attempt, maybe to put him in the shop window kind of thing. And to be fair, I think Ineos might have learned their lesson there. We're just like, this pointless. That was
crazy?
Kind of the reintegration test of go. There's no point. There is no point doing that thing.
And you know what's crazy about everything you just said is he played in a Champions League final in the middle of all of that, and still nobody wanted him afterwards. Like, bizarre career arc. It's just, the whole thing's just bizarre.
Yeah, it's mad. And then, like you said, for now, he's at Villa, and he's there almost just as a body. Villa didn't have a lot of money. You know what I mean? What options do we have? All right, we can get someone on loan. They had a bad start season. Let's get someone in. And even then, it's just kind of, we might have some Europa League games coming up for you, sort of thing. Maybe, it is. Yeah. It's a remarkable one. Also, he spoke about one of our favorite topics, formation. He spoke about the Ruben Amorim formation, and it was one of those ones where when you read it, you think he's going to be an insult, but it's not, because when the first quote is the 3-4-3 or 3-box-3, whatever you want to call it, it's horrible. And you go, oh my God, here we go. And he goes, to play against when it's done well. If you try and press it high, it's really difficult. The first team I remember doing it properly in our era was Basel against Liverpool in the Champions League a few years back. And you could just see it. Liverpool were struggling to press them. You almost have to go man for man, follow every run, track everything. And even then, it's tough. When it works, it's brilliant. But you need teams to press you for it to really click. You see that with United now. They tend to win more games when they've got 45-50% possession rather than 60 to 65. I thought that was quite interesting what he's mentioning there. Does that suggest then, going forward, then United were going to have less of the ball to be effective? Is that the sort of suggestion?
No, I don't think so. I think it's because we're not evolved. Like, I think at the moment, because I think the problem we have right now, and I've been discussing this a lot recently, is that we're still not very good with the ball. In the midfield, when you take like Bruno and Casemiro, they can pass, but it's kind of like, it's a lot of high risk, high reward type passing. That's what they're good at. Neither of them are players who can, put their foot on it, dribble out of pressure, slow the game down, hold the ball. So we the more we sit on the ball, the more danger we have, because I think we have players who will lose it. If they spend too much time on the ball, they're going to lose the ball. That's how it is. And Ruben Amorim was talking recently about how with De Ligt, in praising him, he was also saying like there's another level to go in terms of passing, in terms of dictating play from the center backs. He says we're not seeing that yet. His Sporting team were the second or third highest possession team in Portugal most of the time. They played a lot with the ball. The center backs would be like 90, 100 passes a game. Like, it wasn't just because it was Portugal. The intention, I think, is to have more of the ball. But I think I don't think we'll see that until we have better players, or different players, maybe should be the word for it. Because I genuinely think part of the problem is just that, like, I don't want to see Casemiro and Bruno spending too much time on the ball, because they're going to lose it if they do.
Yeah.
They're just gonna. It's just the type of player they are.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we saw it last season, to be fair, and this is why I don't have a problem with this. Like last season, I think when Ruben first came in initially, and I think he maybe thought some of the players were better technically than they actually are. He had them spending more time on the ball. We still got like the horseshoe, passing it around the back five and then into midfield. And that's why I go back to a little bit of tweaking or adaptation, because I think he has realized that some of these players are just technically, they're not that. And whether it's the intensity of the Premier League or knowing the opposition you're going to be going against as well, it's this thing of, like you said, why would you be asking these players in the middle of the pitch to be on the ball, spending a lot of time on the ball when they can't really do it, or they're not as good at doing it? You're better off playing the percentages and going a bit more direct and seeing if you can get some knockdowns or get possession in the final third of the pitch and kind of go from there. So I kind of disagree with that in the sense of that's the way, it can be successful. I think recently we have seen that with some of our wins. We saw against Brighton when we played them at Old Trafford. If you'd have said to someone 5-10 years ago, you'll play Brighton at Old Trafford, you'll have less of the ball, you'd be like, what? How? You're at home. You should be sort of dominating the game and dominating the ball. But I do think, like you said, I think that will come. Hopefully, if we have a January or summer window where we're signing midfielders who are a lot more technically proficient, let's say you do sign an Elliot Anderson or Wharton or Belabor or someone like that who maybe can hold on to the ball a little bit more and we can play in those tighter areas, then suddenly we don't have to go direct as much. We still probably will, but we won't have to that much. And just actually, whilst we're talking about the formation, what did you make of that piece? It was in the Athletic article about the 1 year under Ruben. Talking about Jason Wilcox, having a conversation with him about changing formation, and then Amorim setting up the team as a 4-3-3 in training, but more so just because we might go to a 4-3-3 in the game anyway. Then that was taken quite out of context to mean like, see, you were sat down and for a formation change, and actually it's more of what he said before, which is this is basically the base formation, but it changes during the match. What did you make of that?
Yeah, well, I think that it's funny how things have been misattributed a little bit, because it was specifically, Wilcox in summer one when Amorim was first suggested, that said 3-4-3. It's a bit difficult to build a team for that. When you look at the squad, he'd been there for a few months by then. He was looking at the team and he was saying, I don't think we have the players for a 3-4-3. I don't think we have the setup to play this 3-back, and the 4-3-3 is more traditional. There's more English players that are, comfortable and used to this 4-3-3 thing and all of that. And it's funny because when Liverpool were looking at Amorim, they had the same thing. Actually, it's the only reason they didn't hire him is they said it's gonna, and then they go and spend all that anyway and get worse.
And get worse.
That's neither here nor there.
It's a very Man United thing to do, by the way. That
it is.
That is very us.
It was very United. So, but no, and I think definitely too much made of it, because Wilcox and Amorim get along really well. They're very like joint. We know this from the summer stuff that we've talked about a lot, that there was a lot of feeling of like huge alignment, which is good. And if it doesn't work, you're all in trouble. This was where kind of when Ruben was under pressure, wasn't really the case in the same way, because if Ruben's under pressure, Wilcox and Omar are also definitely under pressure. I promise you that. Like, they're all quite joint at the hip at this point. I think it's just, it's like Ruben said, the formation changes in games. He said before in a press conference, we played 4-4-2 that game. What are you talking about? Because, it does change all the time. And I think that there was a point, however, around that Brentford time when they sat down together, not like they don't sit down every week, but they did discuss like, how do we fix some of the problems that are going on? Is there anything we can do, be it personnel, things like that, that can change things? And we've seen a little bit of difference since then. I think the personnel, that's when they said, well, let's just get Lammens in the team, right? We started seeing Ahmad out wide almost every game now, 4 in a row, and then the last weekend he wasn't. But most of the games, they had Ahmad out wide, and they made a few changes here and there, personnel-wise. So I think it's just more like that, you know what I mean? Like just more basic conversations, discussions, things that they're noticing. But yeah, I think the 3 at the back staying for quite a long time.
Yeah, I think also as well, it's thank goodness you mentioned the goalkeeper. Thank goodness we did sign one, because if you believe some of the reporting, that wasn't even a certainty till like maybe the first or second game of the season.
Crazy,
which
crazy.
makes you wonder, doesn't it? Because you talk about the difference that we can see it makes, and we still. Myself, I still watch Senna Lommans play, and I'm like, I still don't know how good he can be, or he actually is. You know what I mean? We've seen him obviously make some important saves, some crucial saves, and some good claims of crosses, but it's still really, really early days of him. He could become on to be, really, really good, or maybe he'll just be, an average goalkeeper. But we've already seen the difference that has made. We're still conceding goals, but even just that that sort of in the game, crucial moments, making a save, then going up the other end and getting a goal, keeping you in the game. You look at, for instance, the Spurs game last weekend. I couldn't think he could have done anything about the goals, but if he's not making those saves earlier on, we might not even have a game to sort of crawl back into right at the end. We could have been completely gone. And it's another one where you go, some of those ones, if Bayindir or Onana's in goal, I feel like they go in. And, that's the difference there. And it does. And again, that makes you wonder, like, who was the first to bring that up, either after the Arsenal game or around the Fulham game, of like, I know we were thinking about a goalkeeper or whatever. We really do need it, because if we don't, I mean, imagine we couldn't have done this with Bayindir or Onana all season. No way. Our league position would be very different right now. Very, very different. Like, which games would we have probably lost or not got points in?
I mean, Liverpool would have been very different in terms of the set pieces and things, and dealing with that. Brighton as well, even early on in that game. You could take most of them and say how a team, but it's also how teams approach us. The way that you look at all the corners and you're like, we were conceding like almost every corner. We were getting pushed deeper. There was chaos. Like, it's hard to even know how, because it's not about making crazy saves. It's the basics. It's like, well, you roll the dice. How many mistakes was Bayindir going to make in the last 5 games? At least 3. At least 3. So how does that change the complexion of things? It's got to be quite a bit.
And that's frightening, actually. You think about how just heavily set piece focused the league has become. With Bayindir and goal all season. Oh my god, we'd be conceding all the time, because it would be like every time, like when we played Brentford. I know we lost that game, but well, it just, you know what I mean? It could. I'm just thinking of all the teams that were their set pieces that could be a complete and total disaster. He played that Brentford game as well, didn't he, Bayindir?
Yeah, and he was poor because on that first goal he stuck on his line, and on the second goal he spills it right into the middle. He was not saying he was responsible for both, but he was definitely did not do well on both. Yeah.
It adds
like
to
you might
it,
get
absolutely.
lucky and have your keeper help you a little bit. He was not helping us.
No, it adds to it. If you haven't already, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe to United View. What did you make of this? We spoke about this morning, about the fixtures. This was something that came out yesterday from Sky, talking about the next 5 fixtures in the Premier League. And we were sort of talking about, now it's not even about batches of 5 anymore, because obviously no more international breaks after the one we're currently in.
But after this,
based on the league positions of the next 5 opponents, Manchester United seemingly have the least tough next 5 fixtures in the Premier League. Does that put pressure on Ruben Amorim's team? Does the expectancy of results go up, or is this a time which United have to be crucial and lethal, because it could make a massive difference to our aspirations this season?
I mean, I think so. I looked at the numbers the other day, and it was 8 out of our next 10 games are against. So it's probably not even just the next 5. I would guess in the next 10, United have bottom 3 easiest schedules in that respect, because they play 8 of the bottom 10 teams in the next 10 games. And Wolves twice in there. You know, like there's a few
Well, it
things
would make
happening.
sense, wouldn't it? If you've had
Because the
if you've had the
beginning was
hardest
really
start to the
tough. Yeah.
season, then you
Yeah.
should have a big
It
easy
has to be
section,
that
shouldn't
way.
you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be. So I think United have to do as well as we've been doing recently. Like if you take the last 5 games, we've got 11 points. That's fine. We keep getting that kind of pace of points, a little over 2, around 2 points per game. That's good. That's successful. Now you could argue maybe we do need to get a little extra because come January, we're going to be back. We have a week where we're playing like City and then Spurs and Chelsea, and it's all like back to back to back tough games. But
Yeah.
I mean, the irony of that is that when we have all those tough games in a row, we actually tend to win some of them as well.
Yeah.
It's not like we just suddenly lose them all. We win some. So I don't know, but I think there is pressure now because I think this next period, I do think the games are going to look different than the ones we've just played. I mean, we had tough fixtures: Arsenal at home, City away, Chelsea at home, Liverpool away, even like Spurs away, Brighton. Like these are difficult games for United in recent years. There's a lot of games that should be relatively straightforward, and I think will be different. Where they're probably going to need to be a team that has more of the ball in these next games. And I think that's why it's going to be interesting to see if we can, I don't know, adjust a little bit or up certain aspects of our game have to be better than they were in the other games, upregulate. But it's weird, right? Because the small games versus the different games, like you need to be better at different things, I think. It's not even sometimes that you have to be better. You just have to be better at different aspects of the game. So
yeah. And also, look, we've seen with this league, if at the moment you can be in 10th or 11th and be 1 point or 2 points off third, if you can go on a run of winning games, you can separate yourself quite quickly from that pack, which is what we may need to do. And we was talking about this earlier as well. You look at, say, Liverpool, because of the start they had to the season, when they did have that run of games of 4 or 5 defeats in a row, but they're still in the conversation because they had that run. So if you can get points on the board, or you can have a run just at some point of the season, that can save you if you do go off the boil a little bit later on, which look, inevitably is going to happen with us. I mean, I still very much a yo-yo team. In that 5 games of the easiest 5 games, I'm almost certain there's probably 1 defeat in there. We will drop points. Like you said, maybe Palace, historically going to Palace away, we're not great at. But I think actually what makes this prior 5 games even more impressive and kind of gets lost on people is that the majority of them were away from home. We had 3 away games, 2 home games, and we're been so bad on the road for the last sort of 18 months or so. So actually to come out of it and go, you know what, away from home, we did get a win and 2 draws and also won our home games. That's all right. If you can keep that going for the rest of the season, going, look, the majority of your home games you're winning, and then away from home, you're picking up some wins here and there. Yeah, you're going to take some defeats. It is what it is. But that form, that's all right. And if we carried on that kind of form throughout the next 5 games, you go Everton at home. Look, it's a difficult proposition, Everton, but still should be winning that game. Palace, it's going to be difficult. Going to be difficult. If you could get a point from Selhurst Park, I'd take that. Be thrilled with that. West Ham at home, you've kind of got to be winning that one. The Wolves away is a weird one because you would think, where they are in the league should be beating them.
Yep.
But they were a bad team last season. Remember us playing them at Molineux. They just got Vitor Pereira in then. And they beat us. Remember that day? We were so shit. We were so rubbish.
It was bad. Yeah.
But I don't feel like with this Wolves this season, they're worse. Rob Edwards coming in, who apart from being at Luton, didn't really have Luton Premier League experience. So I don't see them rapidly improving. So you go, right, if you can beat them. Bournemouth at home, historically, over the last few seasons, we have struggled against Bournemouth at home. And in fact, they've been some of our most devastating defeats. Have been in recent years against Bournemouth, like, was it 3-0 a couple of times and not pretty. But they've gone off the boil a little bit recently as well. I say go off the boil. They're 9th and like a point off 3rd. That's how tight it is. So you look at those games, you go, actually, yes. It's one of those ones. If you're gonna qualify for a European position, then you've got to be winning them, haven't you? Or you've got to be
the point, isn't
more
it?
often than not. Yeah.
Like we contextualize it and say, well, maybe some of these can be tough, but that's within the context of a team that's finishing 8th and 15th. You know what I mean? In recent years, like, yeah, if these aren't games we're winning most of them, then we're not going to get into Europe, because these are the games. Then we're just not that good, because then who are we better than? What are the easy games? Like, who's out there? Burnley, maybe Leeds, maybe, I don't know. We haven't played Leeds yet. We'll see. So it's like there has to be. We've got to have 10 easy games a year. We have to be good enough that there are 10 easy games a year, 10 easy teams where we're like, we should be winning those. We're always going to get a point or 3 in those games. And those are the ones we need, especially at home. There's some good fixtures at home for us in this as well, where United have done quite well, 4 in a row, I think, is wins there. But yeah, so I think it would be that's kind of the point, isn't it? Like, if we're mentioning them as difficult or that we won't win them, well, if we're talking about a team that gets into Europe, we have to. These are the ones you just have to win these. You don't get it without them.
If it was other teams or the European rivals, I would be expecting them to win those games. You know what I mean? If, for instance, if I see, I don't know, Chelsea playing Everton at home, I go, oh, I think they'll win. But it's funny how games can be recontextualized as well, because you look at some of the wins we got during this period. So when we beat Sunderland 2-0 at home, newly promoted side, they won the playoffs last season, the championship. They're rubbish. They're still above us. And
they beat Chelsea, drew Arsenal.
Drew Arsenal. Yeah. That's actually, in retrospect, a really good result. Getting a clean sheet as well. 2 goals. That's good. The Brighton one, 4-2, and it was like, oh yeah, but actually, they really kind of dominated that game in Brighton. They're maybe not as good as last season. They still beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge this season. They're not a bad team actually. So, as much as sometimes I think it stems from, because we don't want to get too carried away. Sometimes we do play down certain, things we have done recently.
Yeah.
And actually, then you do have to look at it and go, there's some of them are actually better results than we think. And that's why I still say that Spurs one at the weekend. I know that it was frustrating because Spurs aren't a good team. You watch them play and you're like, they are not very good. They have a load of players missing, and we were obviously leading in that game, and it felt like, oh, it slipped away from us. But also Spurs, they're still I think like 3rd in the Premier League, 4th, something like that.
They're still getting points every game and playing team. Like, they just are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those ones where you go into a top 6 side, get a point away from home. You take that probably. You know what I mean? Throughout the season, if you can go to the top 6 sides and not lose away, that's not bad. I remember Eric Ten Hag couldn't win a game against the top 6 side throughout his entire Man United tenure.
It doesn't matter who or when or what. Yeah, it was top 8 at one point. Yeah,
exactly. So I think that one will be recontextualized. Actually, that's not the worst result. But then this is when I suppose you have to be careful with the way that they're calculating how these games are the least tough, because by that metric, when we played Nottingham Forest, that would have been a least tough game. But that's, Sean Dyche's Nottingham Forest. He'll probably, get them to safety. So, like they say, there's no easy games in the Premier League. And this is also Manchester United, who, over the last few seasons, we don't really do what is expected very well. We were expected to beat Spurs in the Europa League final. So we were expected to beat Grimsby earlier this season. Football, I guess, you never know. But this will be the test of this team. See how they can handle this kind of pressure, right? Like you said, if you're going to be qualifying for those European positions, then you got to be winning those kind of games, certainly. I did want to talk about this as well. Since we get closer to January, the January transfer window, there was a story that came out earlier today about Sekou Kone, saying that due to his frequency of injuries, Manchester United are planning to loan out Sekou Kone in the winter transfer window so he can get playing time elsewhere. Now, this is a really weird one, because there was the thing in the summer that was like, oh, he's going to Lucerne in Switzerland, sister club, affiliate club of Manchester United by the Ineos link. He's going to be going there. And then that turned into actually he's impressing in training sessions, so he's not going out on loan. And people thought, so he's going to be playing for, or maybe featured in the matchday squads. He played maybe like 30 minutes in pre-season, perhaps in total, 45 minutes, because he would come on sometimes and then go off after 15 minutes. And then since then, he's been in the under 23s, obviously picked up that facial injury. What do you think the case is with him? Is it just a case of he's not ready? Because at a time which we kind of do need a 6, it feels like the temptation maybe would be to involve him a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think it's a little bit of like a language thing in terms of the update from Michelle there in terms of the specific of like what he's saying there, because I gather what he's really sort of saying, which kind of makes sense, is that kind of because of the injuries, he's not had a good run of consistent form, but he needs to get playing at like a first team level, consistently in order for United to see if he's good enough, but also to get some development, and that he's not getting that. And it's hard to put him into United's first team right now. So if we send him on loan somewhere else, maybe he can just play for a while elsewhere at a first team level that's a lower level than United. And it makes kind of sense. I would say it's hard to tell based on how it's said whether like it's a very encouraging thing or not. I think the hope would be that he'd been consistently playing enough that now by the time we're here, he'd be able to make that step up to the first team. But because he keeps getting injured, he's not had any rhythm. But maybe they just don't feel he's gaining anything from staying at the under 21s level now, which might be the case. That does happen with some of the players.
Yep.
And I think you don't want players spending too long at under 21s because there's not so much you learn at that point. You hit a point, you're there. Can you play against men? You don't know yet. And you're going to have to go do that before you can take that next step up. And it feels like maybe he's at that point, but because of the injuries and the time, probably better to try it somewhere else and then come back to United. That's kind of how I take it.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time, like you said, something like that's happened. Sometimes people have injuries or setbacks, and they go, actually, the best thing you need is because you can't do your rehab and then we reintegrate you into the team because we're not, because we've got so little games.
Yep.
If we were still in the Carabao Cup and we got an easy tie, all right, maybe you could be involved in that. But if people like, say, Kobbie Mainoo and Manuel Ugarte are struggling to get games or even get onto the pitch, then Sekou Kone is going to probably struggle. So that might be the best thing for him. It just depends. It'll be interesting to see where he would go, whether he would go to, an Ineos affiliate, or if he would, say, go on in the Championship or League One or something like that. But if he does go there, then naturally that would suggest, well, that kind of proves how not ready he is if he's, going to a Championship team or a League One team. But then, you look at people, I suppose, like Ahmad, who went to a Championship team and played really well there, and that kind of made his United career, if you will. So,
did he say abroad or anything, or did he just say on loan? For some reason, I was thinking of it as abroad, but
it's on loan in the winter window, on loan.
I mean, maybe staying in England then. I mean, maybe it would be going to a Championship club or something, and it could make a big difference.
Well, look at someone like Harry Ms, right? He's gone there to Sheffield Wednesday and he's doing well. He scored the other day and was even sort of put out there by everyone that he's not going to come back in January because he's playing games and he's doing well. Because he was the one a couple of seasons ago when, left backs, drama's going on. It's like, put Harry Ms in. Can you put Harry Ms in? And I remember, was it not this past preseason, but the preseason before, he played like a really high amount of games.
It was the one before. He played a lot and then just never made it on the pitch after that. It was very weird.
No. And it was like, so I guess because he's played games, he's going to be playing a lot. And it was like, no. And then I remember the Community Shield coming out of that preseason as well. He wasn't in the squad, but he was training with the team. And they were like, Ten Hag wanted to bring him just to get him used to the match day. And it was like, he must have big plans, and just never saw him again. I suppose maybe the plans that Ten Hag had, couldn't really implement those ones. But it does go to show the difference that a loan move can make. And obviously, Ineos have been signing these young players and putting them into the under 18s or under 23s. I wonder who is going to be that kind of first breakthrough player to sort of come out of that signing, putting into the academy, and then succeeding at Manchester United. And I wonder when that's going to be. Is that going to be, what are we saying, a couple of years' time that someone like that's going to break through?
You would kind of hope next season. Like I feel we need some of the young players to come through next season. When you look at things like, all right, the wing backs aren't a priority right now, but we don't have that many of them. You look and say, all right, well, they signed Leon. Mantato got his pro contract out of them. I know they didn't sign him, but they got his pro contract done. Amas, they're kind of dealing with. He's gone out on loan. Hopefully one of them breaks through. And then you look in the striker, Enzo he gets his first senior goal at Lausanne the other day. Cheeto's down there in the under 21s again.
And I feel bad for him, Cheeto. I feel bad for him because in an ideal world, he wouldn't have played any part last season.
Correct.
Like
Correct. And
he
then
really
it
had
wouldn't feel
no
like he's been
business.
demoted because he hasn't.
Yeah.
This was the plan. He was not supposed to come into the
Exactly.
first team right away.
Exactly. I felt so bad for him because he came in at a time which obviously we didn't really have any strikers, and the strikers we did have that paid a lot of money for, they were themselves. Even people like Rasmus Højlund, you forget, was young, and then Chino comes in and we're looking at him like, because he has such an amazing record at youth level, scoring all these numbers of goals. It was like, he's going to come into the team, he's going to be amazing. And then you saw what is the reality, which is like this kid playing men's football.
Young.
And you sort of go, well, in a bad team as well. It's one thing to be a kid coming into maybe like one of the best teams in the league, and you go, look, even a kid can probably put away some of those chances, but it's a kid coming into a team that's like 15th in the Prem, having their worst Premier League season ever. Like, what are we? What are we saying he's going to be able to do here? And then, like you said, a bit like, I suppose, Cobby to a much lesser extent, because you've been up here, when you naturally come back down there, it feels like a demotion when it, like you say, it's really not. It's actually just reverting back to the path that they were going to take. So there's him. It feels like one at the moment is JJ Gabriel, who people still forget is like 14. So we're talking, we'll sign. What age is it you sign your pro now? Is it 18? You sign your pro at 18. So, but he's already committed, hasn't he? To a pro,
he's done a scholarship and then committed to the next thing, basically.
Yeah. That was always, if you were ever at a youth team and people had already signed, scholarships or, provisional pro contracts, they knew they had it. Yeah, they knew they had it. I remember when I was on trial at like Cheltenham, a couple people there, they'd already, and we were like 16, so they knew that I'm going to be a pro footballer in 2 years. That's difficult to manage. You know what I mean? Knowing that the next 2 years don't really matter. I can do whatever I want, and I'm going to be a pro footballer. You've got to have some head on your shoulders to manage that. That's tough. Very, very difficult. And then imagine that at Manchester United. Imagine that going. I know in 4 years.
Be a pro footballer at Manchester United. Yeah.
In 4 years, I'm going to be one. I've already got a deal with like Nike and all this kind of stuff. People are following me on Instagram. That must be so difficult to manage. Like, how do you even? And maybe that's where United have failed in recent years. They haven't managed that properly.
Probably.
Pressure's on the kid already. If like he doesn't succeed, my goodness. Yes. So there you go, guys. That's another episode of Trafford Talk. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe. As always, subscribe to the Muppeteers. Links in the video description below. So if you haven't already, give James a sub. It's international break. England are playing Serbia. It's 0-0. Nobody cares.
I'm so glad this is the last break, because this is the lowest lull of energy and attention and everything for United that we've had. And I thought it might be because of the seasons, the things, but I know this isn't interesting, but even when you look at YouTube stats and things like that for the viewers, you'll see this break in November is so dead, and it's dead every year, and it's so bad.
It's also as well, it was a really interesting one. I think last season, I think there was, just from United fans, and I speak for myself, there was a lull of interest of we're so crap, I can't even really bring myself to watch this. I'm so emotionally detached from the team. Now it's at an even weirder stage, because it's I'm not emotionally detached, but because there's one game a week, I kind of have other stuff to do.
You've kind of fallen out because of last season, and it's hard to get yourself into that feeling of passionate, every day, United on the brain.
And we're not on the cycle of every 3 days there's a game. So
we will be.
You can allow yourself to kind of again detach in the week of all right, cool, there's a match. I've got to separate myself now a little bit because I can't dwell on this too long for another week. And then I'll get attached again at the weekend. Whereas obviously when you're playing every 3 days, and you're just just on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one.
Yeah.
So
I think the next stretch will be better in there. It's like
it will.
3, 4, 5 days between games for the next 6 weeks or something when we come back.
Well,
a lot of closely scheduled game. Yeah, because we have Monday and then we have a Thursday and then a Monday again. And it's a weird schedule. Very few weekend games, but it is more often. So maybe it's gonna help everybody feel a little more excited if
A
we're
little more
any good
excited.
anyway.
If we win games, oh my goodness. We'll find out together, folks. Yes, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe. We'll be back same time next week for Trafford Talk, heading in to a match day weekend. Oh, it's going to be so much fun. Anyway, we'll see you again next week. Right here. Peace.